A brief history of translation. Translation is the process of understanding the meaning of a text in one language, or source text, and converting it into a new text in another language called the translated text, or target text. When this process is done orally, we call it interpretation. Interpretation is older than writing. Translation had to wait for the appearance of written literature. It is known that there are partial translations of the Epic of Gilgamesh, 2000 BC, into Near Eastern languages of the time. As is often the case with ancient history, it is difficult to determine exactly when translation began. It is commonly accepted that the origin of translation dates back to the time of the Rosetta Stone. Its discovery in 1799 determined that translation was already in use by the time of Pharaoh Ptolemy V, 196 BC. The Rosetta Stone, weighing over 800 kilos and measuring 1 meter in height, contained information about a decree praising the figure of the pharaoh and transcribed in 3 languages of the time: Egyptian hieroglyphics, Demotic script, and Greek. However, there is earlier information about the commission that Ptolemy Philadelphus, predecessor of Ptolemy V, gave to 72 scribes who knew Hebrew and Greek to translate the 5 books of Moses, already in the 3rd century. Precisely religious work was an important impetus for translation activity, and shortly after the Rosetta Stone, texts from the Old Testament were translated into what was called the Septuagint. The disappearance of Hebrew as the main religious language and the power of the Greek and Roman cultures led to the push for translation to preserve religious texts. This would be the case with the first Greek translations of books from the Old Testament and the later translations into Latin by the Romans into the Vetus Latina version. But surely the Bible has been the text that has most influenced the growth of translation. The most widespread version, called the Vulgate, was already produced in the 4th century. It was produced by Saint Jerome, patron of translators, and was used for centuries in the Christian religion. The expansion of the Arab Empire during the Middle Ages and until the 15th century also encouraged translation into different areas of knowledge such as science or philosophy, which were typical of Greek texts. It was precisely during the Arab reign in the Iberian Peninsula when the mixture of cultures and the situation of Spain as the gateway to Europe promoted a golden period for translation. In the 12th century, still under Arab rule, the Archbishop of Toledo, Raimundo de Sovata, founded the Toledo School of Translators. The institution began working mostly on theological texts, but it was with the arrival of Alfonso the Wise that the institution began to broaden its horizons towards scientific and even recreational texts, translation in the modern and contemporary age. In the 15th century, with the arrival of the printing press and the appearance of vernacular languages, translation experienced the development that brings us to the present day. Now, globalization and the internet have brought translation and research into tools to speed it up to a complex era in which professionalization is more important than ever. At LingoCall, we are aware that the current pace and the need to act quickly are a priority for our clients. It is up to us to write the next page in the history of translation, thanks to our work.